Yeah, and then we have on the west side, we had the Golden State Warriors
Now this
against
series, I'm extremely excited.
the Houston Rockets, where I think you're not necessarily wrong with which way you feel, but I personally I would like to see Houston win. I think that'd be really dope. I think that'd be interesting. But I think if Houston wins, it makes it an interesting finals with them against the Cavs. But I still think that you go with the defending champs.
Yeah.
Mainly, the Warriors have the best one coming in.
Yeah.
You have a Steph Curry who's pretty much the healthiest player
Yeah.
in the most freshest player, I should say, out of everyone playing, because he just now recently started coming back in, and he's
True. But what's another notion I realized? Like throughout the year, like Kevin Durant missed time, Klay Thompson missed time, Steph Curry missed time, and in my head, I wasn't looking at it like they were hurt. I was looking at it more like this is manual rest, because they're in this for championships. They're not in this for like regular season victory. So the freshest that they can be come playoff time, the more scary that team gets playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
So all those games, like say Klay Thompson missed maybe 3 weeks worth of games. If he really cared, he could have probably missed 2 games and come right back. But then they took him out for another 7 games and be like, yo, rest.
I remember he had the finger injury, and then they showed him in practice banging buckets with his left. So it's not like he needed to be there. And I think they learned a lot from last year.
Yeah.
Where that big series, the year before that, sorry, where they had the record but couldn't get it done. And they started realizing like the regular season
all the way through, and they mashed out to the end, and then they just lost it because they had to go through Durant and OKC in 7 games. So then when they had to play LeBron in 7, you could tell they just didn't have it no more.
It was just
I played so hard to win the 73 games, and then you had to go through such a rough playoffs.
And then I think also the Warriors looked at themselves. I think Warriors didn't give themselves as much credit as everyone else see them. I think they felt that they had to play that hard.
Yeah.
They didn't realize you became one of those top tier teams where you can kind of coast a little bit because you need to save it for the playoffs.
I think
you're a type of team where you have a longevity of playoff games. You have at least 16 games.
Like you're playing 100 games. You're not playing just 82.
Yeah, you're not.
So you have to factor for that.
You can't think of it as I might make first or sixth round.
Compared to the regular season, it might be like 50 regular season games.
Yeah,
like just the intensity of those playoff games.
And then how they changed the format this year compared to the last couple of years. These teams are getting more rest.
Yeah.
So then now you mix it up with
which
the
rest. I don't like. I haven't seen a playoff game now like 2 nights. And I'm tight. I'm tight.
I think the first one starts on Monday.
It's like why I gotta wait a whole weekend to see playoffs basketball again? Like I'm suffering right now. I don't know what to watch.
Yeah, so that's why I just think that the Warriors have like a gooder shot, and then you come from a Houston team where, all right, you have a James Harden where he wants his revenge against the Warriors.
Yeah,
off that where he didn't finish out, but then now you got a Chris Paul. This is his first time even reaching this far.
That's a fact. But shout out to Chris Paul. Man.
So it's like
I'm so happy for Chris Paul.
It's like you can see how he ended that last game. He was like, I'm going in. I'm not. There's no way we're losing this game. He's been here before, where he's been up in the series and they lost it.
Yo, I think this is one of those all right. Like every few years we get like a series that's just a very good series. Like I think a couple years ago when we saw the Miami Heat play the Boston Celtics, when it was almost like the changing of the guard. The Big Three had to finally get through the Big Three of Boston. Like that was a great series. You saw Rondo bend his elbow back and then play with one arm. It was an extremely good series. Even like the Miami and the Spurs series a couple years ago where Ray Allen hit the big shot. That was just a great series. I think this is going to be one of those. This Houston versus Golden State because of all the elements. So Chris Paul was basically the best point guard of his generation. Steph Curry virtually dethroned him of that. They go head to head. They consider Klay Thompson the best two-way shooting guard in the league. James Harden's been saying, I'm the best 2 guard in the league for years. He gets to go now match to match against Klay for the entire series.
People really forget James Harden really can play defense.
Yeah.
He chooses not to sometimes, but now this year he's been...
In college, he was an all defensive player. He came to the league.
He got drafted by OKC for his defense, man.
But he was known to be a slick offensive player, but he was an all college defensive player. Well, so people forget that now because in Houston, his burden is to be the entire offense. From day one, he had to do everything. Remember the Chandler Parsons days where it was just James Harden brings it up, him and Chandler Parsons kind of play pick and roll with each other.
And to bring into that with the series. Oh, sorry, go
ahead.
Yeah. I think the most interesting matchup is going to be Clint Capella and Draymond Green.
Correct. I was even going to get to that. Like the matchups keep getting more thirsty. Like for instance, you got Kevin Durant against Trevor Ariza. Like, Ariza doesn't like Kevin Durant. They've had like fits throughout the years.
So this is gonna be
this is another good match. Capella and Green. A great matchup. Now you got Eric Gordon and Andre Iguodala, two of the best 6 men in the entire league, coming off the bench and now competing against each other.
And then you also even bring into
and now the coach side. That's where, to me, it gets even legendary. Now, what people fail to realize, Steve Kerr's first year with the Warriors, D'Antoni was his head associate coach to help him come up with a modern version of the triangle offense. The offense that you see the Warriors make is a blend of Phil Jackson's triangle offense and Mike D'Antoni's 7 seconds or less offense. That's what the Warriors run, and that's why it's special. That is a generational offense. So now Kerr gets to almost play against one of his mentors in D'Antoni, the father of the modern offense, with the most dominant version of that he has. This is a more dominant than Phoenix Suns team, with Chris Paul being the best point guard that he's ever had, because Chris Paul is better than Steve Nash. I understand a lot of people want to say as an MVP and all that, but Steve Nash is not the level that Chris Paul has always been. Chris Paul was, from the time he was in college, was considered second coming out of Isaiah Thomas, whereas Steve Nash was actually a soccer star coming out of college. He was a 3-sports star that had to back up behind Jason Kidd and Kevin Johnson in Phoenix when he got drafted. Whereas Chris Paul, from day one, was considered one of the best players.
And I could be a little ignorant, or maybe I'm mistaken, but I always thought Chris Paul was a better shooter and defender than Nash.
Actually, he's not.
See,
Steve Nash
I could be wrong.
Steve Nash came in as a sharpshooter.
Okay.
From day one, he always could shoot, but he had to learn some of the other things. He was a sharpshooter from day one.
Okay.
Whereas Chris Paul, the only weakness that he had coming out of college was a jump shot. The only thing is, there was a line that Joel Ortiz had said way back, "Now brothers got to get better like Chris Paul and Jay." So it was a thought that once he got that, because he had a standstill jumper, but he couldn't go off the dribble and shoot.
Okay.
Once he started to develop that in New Orleans, then he was became, like the guard. He started being called a point guard. And they first saw that it was a series against Tony Parker when it finally looked like he had put it all together. Whereas with Steve Nash, you saw that with Phoenix under D'Antoni when he finally put it all together. So for like Chris Paul, he'd been had it together before he saw D'Antoni. The point I'm making with the comparison. So D'Antoni now gets Chris Paul. I knew it was going to work. Even if they didn't have James Harden there, Chris Paul and like D'Antoni would have had an amazing run together. So now you put the James Harden on top of that with D'Antoni. This is D'Antoni's best situation for his system.
And this Chris Paul like finding he has a player of a superstar talent who's not getting hurt like Blake.
Not to mention, I don't think Blake is on the level of James Harden.
No, I'm not even saying. I'm just saying
he's on that level.
I'm just saying in the fact that he has a person that's with him that's in a good level, that a matchup level where it's like a star with you.
Correct.
That's actually able to be.
First time that
he has a person with
better than Chris Paul on his team. Like I don't think
where like Chris Paul could really chill.
He's always been the best player on all of his teams. This is the first time I think Chris Paul is honestly not the best player on his team, and that's scary for the league. You know what I mean? Because if Blake Griffin had reached his peak, that Clippers team might have been able to compete with the Warriors. But I think for Blake, Blake's injuries limited his development.
So who you got? I got Warriors taking.
I got the Warriors in 6. Why? Because defense against still wins championships. And the one thing that the Warriors are, they're the best defensive team in the West.
I still feel Houston can win, but I still got.
I think Houston can win because it's game for game and it's matchups. And the fact that I think D'Antoni is a good enough coach.
But I think if it goes to 7, I give it to Houston. If it goes to 6, I give it to the Warriors.
If it goes 7, I'm still going to Golden State. The championship credibility, I think, makes them win tough games in the back end.
That's true.
But if the Houston's able to snatch a game in Golden State early, there's a better chance of Houston winning in 6 than Houston winning 7. You know what I mean? Whereas I think, again, it's about D'Antoni. If D'Antoni's system is if Draymond Green and Iguodala and Kevin Durant aren't defensively able to make any kind of strides against Houston, Houston has a chance. But I think the thing that makes Golden State the winner is because of defense. You're not going to stop them offensively, and Houston is not a defensive team, but Houston is a much improved defensive team that nobody wants to give credit to. That's why this is really a series.
I think they were
PJ Tucker,
top
Capella,
5, top 10 in defense this year.
Trevor Ariza, and even Chris Paul. These are 4+ defenders. Chris Paul is an elite defender. Capella's an elite defender. Tucker and Ariza are not elite, but they're beyond good. They are beyond good defenders. Even James Harden in that system now is forced to go back to his ability to play defense. So they have 5 guys on the court now that can definitely defend and switch off against those Warriors. And the other side of it is, offensively, they can make the Splash Brothers work. If Steph Curry and Klay Thompson get in foul trouble, that's what can make this series hard. Because Steph can't guard Chris Paul man to man. Chris Paul can't guard Steph Curry man to man. But Chris Paul can actually get to a level where he affects Steph Curry because he's an elite defender.
Yeah, he's gonna get him in the post.
He can affect him.
Because if he starts getting him into the post, he's gonna get him in foul trouble.
Fact, where Steph cannot affect Chris Paul. He cannot.
It's gonna be a dope series, man.
Legendary series.